Hi everyone, I'm back for chapter 6. Surrender, the wolf said, tilting his head slightly. I was about to suggest the same to you, Philip said, his sword drawn and pointed at the wolf. The queen wishes none of you hurt, if possible. The wolf's eyes gleamed despite the surrounding mist cutting off all available light. Of course, if you resist, I could just tell her it wasn't possible, that I was forced to bite off an arm here or there. She's quite forgiving in such situations. I'm hungry, Wolf King, one of the goblins yelled from the wolf's side. Can't we at least eat one of them? The wolf frowned and his head whipped out, bit down on the goblin's armor, and swung the screaming creature into the air and back into the monsters. Jack's stomach dropped at the noises coming from the crowd, sounding as if the first goblin wasn't the only hungry one. Now where were we? The wolf asked. Jack drew his sword out, the normal white glow flickering oddly in the fog. You really want to do this? He asked the wolf. I seem to remember taking you down once or twice. The wolf smiled at this. Ah, the little fake eye has grown a spine. He gestured to the goblins at his side. You 5, take them. The goblins let out a howl and advanced, each wielding a vicious-looking battle axe. Just as it had happened in the past, somehow time slowed down. Each goblin seemed to almost stop in place while Philip was virtually frozen as he pushed his way in front of May, despite her extremely slow protests. Jack half smiled at that and then leapt forward, snapping the first goblin's axe out of his hands and into the air, kicking the second one in the stomach while grabbing the flying axe out of the air and smashing the third in the head with it. The fourth and fifth goblins had just enough time to start to look frightened before Jack slammed their heads together, then whipped the first one's axe right at the smiling Wolf King's head, when the black-gloved hand reached out and grabbed it mere inches from the wolf's face. Not bad, Leanne said, her smile the only thing he could see under her eye cloak. Not that great either. She disappeared, reappearing right in front of Jack before he even saw her move. She grinned right in his face and then slammed her fists into his stomach over and over, faster than he could follow. One last kick to the chest sent Jack flying backwards and slammed into the Piper's tree stump. And just like that, time returned to normal and the girl was gone. Jack! May shouted in surprise, while Philip just stared at the 5 goblin bodies that had fallen to the ground in front of them. Wasn't that interesting? The wolf said smugly. You have gotten better, little fake eye, but you're still nothing compared to the real thing. Brave words, Jack said, desperately sucking in air, from the big bad wolf, who's hiding behind goblins and little girls. Why don't you trot yourself over here and see how good I am? Jack took a deep breath. Maybe give me a minute or two first, though. The wolf laughed like rocks tumbling against one another. You humans always think pride is so important. You're faster than me, I'll grant you that. But how will your speed fare when you're overwhelmed by my army? He nodded, and hundreds of goblins, trolls, and ogres surged forward, their hungry howls calling out into the night. The cave, Philip yelled, grabbing May and pulling her toward Jack. The one that all those children never came out of? Jack yelled. We don't have much of a choice, Philip said, rushing in. We can make a stand from within. A stand against all that? May shouted, grabbing Jack's arm as he pushed himself to his feet, almost yanking him off them again with the force of her pull. Is there an aircraft carrier in there or something I don't know about? Philip didn't respond as he led them into the cave, Jack's sword still flickering oddly, but giving them enough light to see by as they pushed their way in deeper. Behind them, the monsters hesitated at the mouth of the cave, only to surge forward once again at the Wolf King's orders. Jack struck out with his sword at the walls, and the glowing blade bit into the stone, huge chunks of which fell to block the way. Well, that was that. He had given them a reprieve from the monsters by trapping them inside the cave. Perfect. Where are we going? Jack asked as he squeezed his way between 2 pillars of rock. Everything was slippery from some unknown water source, but just keeping his footing was hard. Remember what the villagers in the town said, Philip said, still pulling May deeper into the cave in an annoying way. The Pipers stole their children away into a cave, and the children never emerged. They must have gone somewhere. Or been killed by the Piper, May said, yanking her arm out of Philip's grasp as she stopped. Jack passed her by and grabbed her arm too, almost carrying her farther in. The wolf must have gotten him, Jack said as he pushed on. But if he were in here, I'd take a murderous old musician over the monsters behind us, even with your tendency to fall for his music. If he can make me not afraid like that again, I'd take a little murderousness, May said, but kept moving forward. The cave, however, didn't. First Philip, then Jack and May practically slammed into a solid rock wall just a few feet from the spot where May had stopped. The light from Jack's sword lit the wall enough to show an intricate black outline drawn in charcoal on the wall, one of the most realistic-looking doors Jack had ever seen drawn on a cave wall, which admittedly wasn't a huge group to begin with, but still. "Open it," May shouted. "The drawing?" Philip said in surprise. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were an idiot," May said. "It's magic, Philip." She shook her head in disgust and then reached out to grab the doorknob. Instead, her hand just smacked against the flat rock. "I hate to side with the prince," Jack said, "but that was seriously just amazing to watch." "Perhaps there is a way to make it real," Philip said. "Perhaps there's a way to speed this up," May shouted as they began to hear goblin voices again. Apparently, Jack's cave-in hadn't done as much slowing down as he had hoped. "There's only one way the piper would open his cave wall door drawing," Jack said, shrugging as he pulled out the pipes the wolf had left as a message on the stump. "Anyone know how to play these?" "I played clarinet in elementary school," May said, grabbing the pipes. "So no, but I'll try anyway." She brought the pipes to her lips and blew. Jack and Philip both cringed at the resulting screech. "I think they're broken," May said. "Yeah, it's the pipe's fault," Jack said. "Let me," Philip said, taking the pipes from May's hand and blowing in them gently. This time, a simple but beautiful melody filled the small room, but the drawing didn't change at all. "That was even worse," Jack lied, grabbing the pipes for himself. "Seriously, how hard can this be?" They're just ahead," the goblin yelled from behind them. "Play," May said, smacking the door over and over with her hand. Jack put the pipes to his lips and gently blew on them. At first, the instrument squeaked worse than May's attempt, but he quickly realized his error and managed to work out a simple little melody. Except it wasn't simple. There was something in the pipes, something that just aching to be let loose, to be released into the world and fill everyone's heads with its beautiful music. A horrible scraping sound broke Jack's concentration, and the rock just to the right of the drawing of the door in front of them pushed open. Behind it, a fat, middle-aged man wearing the clothes of a 6 or 7-year-old child glared at them. "Could you stop with the horrible music, please?" he said, shaking his head. "If you want it in, why didn't you just knock?" And I'm going to be back with you guys for Chapter 7 shortly. See ya.